Welcome back to See You on the Other Side, you guys. And I don't. When do we have to introduce ourselves every time?
I mean, I don't think so. I feel like there's got to be a certain point where people
know us.
Yeah, and recognize our voices.
That's what I would think. So we're who we are. We have another guest with us today. His name is Kyler.
Hello.
I love that name, by the way.
It is such a good name.
We've been talking about how much we love your name behind your back.
I appreciate it.
And Kyler is...
Well, my name's Kyler. I would consider myself a psychedelic enthusiast, if I would say that. I'm also a business owner. I own a gas station. We're a hemp business, retail business in Louisville, and we sell edibles, CBD, glass, anything cannabis related. Just looking to start new business ventures and get into, I guess, more psychedelics.
That's really cool. So would you consider yourself a psychonaut?
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Okay, because I feel like am I allowed to say that about myself now? Is that kind of whenever you have one experience and you just kind of dive in and start experimenting with a bunch of other things?
Yeah, I think it sounds like it piqued your curiosity, and you're curious of what these minute amount of drugs can do to your brain. It's just kind of ridiculous how, like, especially like LSD, where it's such a small amount of like a solid, it can just alter your brain and consciousness like that far. I don't know. I feel like it's really intriguing. Once you open that bag, you're like, wow, what else is in here?
That's exactly what happens.
So then, am I a psychonaut? Because
I feel like your interest is
green.
Peaked. You're peaked. Like you're.
Oh,
like,
I'm super interested.
You're tuned in, and you're just waiting to dive further in.
Well, I love this because I feel like I'm like the rookie here, and I'm just learning. There's just a lot to this.
There's definitely a lot to know, especially with it being so taboo in the past, where it wasn't okay to really talk about openly and stuff. But things are changing now. I feel like where there's new studies and like it's actually getting into the scientific field, and we're seeing actual results for medicines and stuff. And now we can actually talk about it for it helping people and helping mental health. And
right. And it helped us.
Especially after 2020, I really feel like we're just now starting to see the effects that it's had on people mentally, because for 2 years we were sort of in fight or flight mode. And when someone hears that there might be something that helps, this is like, I know everybody talks about the new wave of psychedelics, but I really do feel like we're in it.
I 100% agree.
Like, I don't even think we're on the edge of it. I feel like we're in it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Yeah, it's very rare you find someone nowadays that at least hasn't thought about taking one. Like I feel like back a while ago, like people would be freaked out. Acid,
That was me.
Yeah.
Same.
But now, like a lot more people are like open to the idea, even if they don't use it. They're like, okay, I get people to take that for like microdosing, and it can benefit their life. Like at least people are open to that idea now.
Yeah, I think it's being more talked about. It's more mainstream, and
there's research
and science and all the medical stuff around it. So your business is hemp and CBD?
Yeah. So we do everything, any cannabinoid under hemp. We can actually get like THC. The Delta 9 THC is the one that's illegal and banned. But if you get Delta 9 THC derived from hemp, and as long as it's under 0.3% THC by weight, then you can have like legal hemp edibles. Like the ones I gave you all, those are the real deal THC. You can get at like Colorado and stuff, but it's legal here in Kentucky. Yeah.
Because it's like under a certain amount.
Yeah, it's like a nice little loophole. They put enough chocolate in there to get the weight thrown off, so you can put in THC.
I've read. I didn't dive too far down the CBD rabbit hole, but there's like the CBD isolate and the CBD. Like there's different types, and one has THC, one doesn't. Yeah. So they're all. Anyway, we'll do an episode on that one time.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, that's really cool. And you have Delta 8.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and it's a little bit more mild. But, yeah.
My husband calls it the diet weed.
Yeah, that's exactly what we say.
Diet
Anyone
weed?
asks us what it is, we call it diet weed.
Why?
It's not like so if you eat a Delta 9 edible, it's kind of like a full-encompassing high. It's,
right.
But Delta 8 is kind of just like a little bit like stimulation in your mind. You
Gotcha.
don't necessarily get stoned to the bone unless you have a very low tolerance.
I feel like it's honestly better for people who get that anxious feeling when they smoke or do edibles with straight up THC. Like a lot of people won't do it because they're like, oh, it gives me so much anxiety and I get paranoid. Like this is a great in my experience, like this is that without the anxiety.
Oh yeah, it's definitely there. It does not get the anxiety like the Delta 9, like the real deal THC. It's definitely way more laid back.
The diet weed.
I love that.
So I want to pick your brain. Well, we want to pick your brain about psychedelics, like your knowledge on that. How long have you been in the psychedelic world? When did you get started?
Well, I started psychedelics at a really young age, which I guess I wouldn't recommend after you got a developing brain until you're about 25. But I started freshman year of high school, started with mushrooms. And I always smoked weed, and I just, I'd see mushrooms around, and I read about them, and I was always curious of them. So I'd ate some mushrooms, and I started really liking where it got me, and I would trip at home at night where so no one would know, because I didn't have any friends that would do it. I was young.
You did it alone?
Yeah.
How did you even, like, if you don't mind me asking, find out about it?
I don't know. I feel like I've always smoked weed. I smoked weed when I was in middle school, so like I was kind of always like on the fringe, I guess, and like trying new things and being experimental. But I just read about them, and like they really intrigued me. Like I was very intrigued by them. Like everything about psychedelics, I loved, like Alice in Wonderland, like anything
He's
around that.
He's the modern day Paul.
Yeah.
It just really intrigued me at a young age, and I just loved reading about it and hearing other people's trip experience. Like that's what I would do for hours. I would read trip reports and just like read
on
about
Arrowhead.
Yeah, Arrowhead, Blue Light, Reddit, any of those things.
That's crazy.
But just read about people taking psychedelics and these experiences they're going through, and like, wow, those sound crazy, beautiful, and like I want to try that. I want to go to where they've been.
Is that how you learned how to dose yourself, like through definitely. Arrowhead and all those other sites?
Yeah, online is where I learned so much of my drug information. Not just the scientific studies, but like people's personal experiences, that like how much they take and how far they can go, and like if you can take this dose and like act a fool or not,
So on Arrowhead, did I ever send you that website?
No.
You can go on there and search what type of drug they're taking and then the type of trips that they're having. So you can go down there and like for the subject, you can say bad trips, or you can put in, you can search like for mental health or for love or really good trips, and it'll tell you how much they took, what their weight was, whether they're male or female, how old they were, and then they write about their experience. So you can, I did all of this before my first trip. I'm like reading like all of these really beautiful experiences. I did not read the bad trips because I didn't even want to put that.
I agree. I don't either, actually. And
really?
I've had some bad trips, and I'm weary to talk about them because I don't want to put that like thought in someone's head,
Yeah.
So I feel like even almost thinking about it can like trigger it to something necessarily.
Yeah, that's exactly, because even before my first experience, my husband was like, "You're gonna have what if you have a bad one?" I'm like, "Shut up." Like, I'm not.
But that's what a lot of people's go-to is. Like when I tell them I did a trip, they're like, "Oh yeah, well I did it in college or I did it in high school and this happened." So like, blah, blah, blah.
I guess if your first experience was like a really good one, it kind of, I feel like you're more willing to go in again.
But it almost comes to the thing. I hear a lot of people say that they'll have a bad trip and they'll completely stop. Or the same with edibles too. Like someone will eat an edible, they'll freak out and they'll never touch them again.
Yeah.
But like when people first started drinking, were you not throwing up and thinking that was awful tasting?
That is a good point. That is a very
you're gonna
good
have
point.
bad experiences no matter with what substance you use. But don't let that define the whole experience. That's just part of it,
I always ask, like, how much did you do? Who did you do it with? Like, where were you? All of those questions.
What was going on in your head before you took that?
Yeah, but you're exactly right. How many times have we like blacked out drunk and puked our guts up and then like never drinking again, and then 2 weeks later we're drinking again?
Yeah, it's a weird thing. It only happens to like weed and psychedelics where people will do it once and like never again. It's like, give it another shot. Like I get it was scary. Psychedelics can be terrifying. I understand that.
So can getting blackout drunk though.
I don't know how I'm alive, honestly, after college.
Well, and there's been times where like I remember drinking in high school and like drinking like a strawberry malt liquor and it was the first time I drank and getting so sick and throwing up. And then like taking a shower the next day, I had like a strawberry shampoo and I was like, no, I can't. I cannot. I wanted to die.
Oh my God.
But guess what? I drank the next weekend.
Oh my God. So your first trip ever was alone?
Oh yeah.
And you had no friends
I had friends, but they
like
smoke, but
in that world
trips.
though.
Yeah, I was so young, like no one really did.
Did you talk about it with your friends?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. There was not everyone, but the friends I could definitely find, comfort in telling them something like that. Yeah, I'd definitely tell them. And eventually it would lead up, I would start tripping alone, and then I'd walk to my friend's house and go hang out with them eventually. So they'd be cool with it, but they just didn't partake at that time.
Okay. Yeah. They eventually did though, right?
Yeah. Well, not the neighborhood friends. I've actually never tripped with my neighborhood friends, but they were there for me when I was tripping and stuff, and we'd smoke it together and have a good time. And
what's under your belt right now? Like what psychedelics have you done? What have you not done?
Yeah. Well, I've done mushrooms. I've done acid. I've done DMT. I have not done mescaline or any cactus. I've really wanted to do some mescaline eventually. That's something I want to do.
Bucket list.
Yeah. I've done 2CB, which is an analog of mescaline. It's kind of like a mix between MDMA and LSD.
Okay. Never heard of
MDMA,
that one.
ketamine, and I think that's about it. Yeah.
Okay. Toad?
I have not done 5-MeO, no.
Okay.
No, that one, 5-MeO scares me a little bit.
Really?
Why?
Because you actually can OD on that one.
Oh.
So DMT itself, you cannot, but 5-MeO DMT, which comes from the toad, and there's other alkaloids with it, but you can OD on that one actually. If you take too much, it's a very small dose, it's less than DMT. And if you take too much, it can cause heart problems. So it does scare me a little bit, but you can take it safely for sure.
I have a friend who has done toad with Dr. Jerry.
Oh, really?
So I feel like if that was the case, I would trust it.
Yeah.
That's who did Mike Tyson's.
I was going to say, who's Dr. Jerry?
I can't remember his name, but he is who there was a podcast with Mike Tyson where he went offline literally in the middle of recording this podcast, did toad
it
and came back. Yeah. They were
I remember that.
They were interviewing Dr. Jerry. I can't remember his last name, but he's the toad master.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Toad guru.
I love listening to Mike Tyson talk about his toad experiences.
Yeah.
I love Mike Tyson.
He's a great dude. I love Mike.
I fucking love Mike Tyson.
He's changed a lot.
Well, and he's lived a life.
Yeah.
And I like watching his comeback.
Oh yeah.
Very much so.
I think a lot of it has to do with psychedelics. I could be wrong.
Oh, 100%.
100%. He says that.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he says that. For sure.
He'll go in podcasts and people will like, hey, you like these mushrooms? And he'll just take the mushrooms and eat it he'll just eat the whole bag.
Oh,
on the middle of a podcast.
He's so fascinating to watch.
So my question to you, I'm going to skip around. Why would someone do acid over mushrooms? What is the difference? I want to hear the way you explain it to me.
Microdosing or full dosing?
Full trip.
Full dosing? Okay. Well, in my opinion, I prefer to do shrooms alone. Shrooms to me are very introspective and going in deep to myself and the world and stuff. And it really makes me feel a connection to myself and the world, deeply down centered. I tripped with people before, but if I'm going to do mushrooms, most of the time I'm going to do a larger amount by myself in my bed kind of thing.
Okay.
But with acid for me, it's a lot more social and I want to be with people and want to be talking with other people. And it's definitely a lot more stimulating. So you're going to want to go out and do something, go on a walk or go to a music festival or, something more stimulating than mushrooms for me. Mushrooms don't really give me that drive to go do something. It's more so yes, I feel good and I feel better, but LSD just got a really strong drive behind it. So I prefer that with microdosing, honestly.
Okay. I've been trying to get my husband to do acid. Which is crazy because he used to be the addict and I'm the one that's do these with me. And he's no. The way I explained it to him was I feel you need to be a kid again. Mm-hmm. We need to be out in nature and you need to just enjoy fucking life for 12 hours. And that's what it was for me each time. It just felt like I was able to see things through the eyes of a child, experience them for the first time. Even just sitting out and watching things in nature, I'm just oh my God, look at the trees. How beautiful. This is amazing. Crazy. So
see, and I'm more curious about that because I didn't necessarily enjoy my childhood. So
it's reliving it.
Right. Being able to re-experience it, I guess, quotes, I feel would be cool.
There's nothing like getting that psychedelic laughter where you get that laughter where you just cannot stop laughing and you just insane happiness. You know,
Yes.
That's another thing that we were talking about microdosing DMT, and I know I'm switching all the way around.
No,
here,
yeah,
but
totally.
That's something that I would take like 5 milligrams or so, and you just take it, and it's just like you just feel like love come down. Like from I don't know where it comes from. There's something, but it hits your body, and it just makes you like everything's okay. It feels like a motherly hug, and it's like you're gonna be okay.
I've heard that about ayahuasca.
That. Yeah. It's a motherly spirit behind DMT is what a lot of people say.
Really?
Yeah, like
really?
a feminine side to it.
So that's
like a nurturing type of
Yeah.
Which is something we didn't really, well, I didn't have.
Right.
So it's interesting hearing that, because we just talked in our last podcast about how most of the time, no matter what the lesson is, anytime that we've gone in, it's always been love. Like it's been the underlying message anytime, which is crazy to me.
Yeah. Loving yourself, loving others,
Like,
loving life.
The intense love for nature and love for each other. Is that your experience with anything you've taken?
100%. I feel like I always come to that conclusion. It's just, you gotta experience love and give it out. And if you radiate that love, it comes back to you.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's the law of attraction.
I love that.
Okay. I guess we should probably ask you some questions. So you're so much further into this than I can even imagine in knowledge.
Which I love, because he's much younger than us.
Are we allowed to say how old he is?
Yeah, you can go for it.
He's 24.
I'm 23, actually.
23.
We're really old.
It's okay. I was gonna say I could be your mother, but I couldn't. So as far as microdosing goes, this is kind of where you've done so much more in terms of experimenting than I have. The only thing I've ever microdosed is mushrooms. What does microdosing mean if you had to explain it to someone that doesn't know?
Yeah, so microdosing is taking, well, any drug, but in this case, psychedelics, and taking a dose about 1/20th to 1/10th the size of a standard tripping dose. And it's to help guide you throughout your day, not to make you feel high, not to make you trip or anything. It's just to help give you a positive impact on your day. And it can help relieve anxiety and depression and a lot of other things in your head. And it kind of gives me that sense of calm when I take it. Like it shuts down a lot of that chatter in my head and just makes me like actually enjoy my day.
That's what my husband says. It quiets the noise.
Yeah. And I'll fully admit I have a little bit of road rage, and I'll get really irritated at people when I feel
That is shocking.
I feel like people in Kentucky, like, no
Don't know
offense,
how to
no
drive.
offense, Kentucky, but
I'm a grandma driver, so
all
you can
don't know how
offend
to
me.
drive.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I don't.
And so like when I microdose, instead of like being like, in my head, like, F you and blah, 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 it's almost like, it's not worth it. Like maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe like, not just assuming the negative, thinking more of a positive situation instead of getting annoyed about something that's not going to matter in an hour.
You're able to shut it off.
Yeah. Like it doesn't impact me or trigger me as much, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it gives you that time to think about it actually a little bit.
Yeah. Like I'm not just going to like immediately react and be like, fuck you. Like.
So then see, this is where microdosing, as often as you can take it, which actually, let's just ask you that. Like how often, I know there are different protocols with psilocybin. I guess I knew that you could microdose anything, but I'm like, holy shit, you can microdose acid? Like,
Yeah.
I've only ever had tabs and didn't know you could. I didn't know how to measure it. I didn't know if that was even a thing. So that's really, microdosing is such a scary word for a lot of people, especially with psychedelics, because you think if you take one little tiny thing, you're going to feel it. And I don't think that that's the case, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like necessarily if you like really are noticing it, you probably took too much.
Right.
Like, you're not supposed to be like, I mean, you should maybe notice a little bit of a change with your day-to-day, but
like an introspective change.
Yeah, you shouldn't be seeing visuals or, feeling intense feelings that you associate with tripping. But yeah, I feel like as long as you're taking like you start low, you just got to start low and work your way up and find out your happy medium dose. And once you figure that out, I feel like you kind of you should just try to stick with it. And you're talking about frequency. I don't really ever stick to a strict schedule ever. It's more so for me, take as needed. But through my research, what I've seen, you can do it every other day, space 2 days, 1 day on, 2 days off. 1 day on, 2 days off. It's kind of up to you, but there is a psychedelic tolerance. So if you're taking it every day, you're not gonna notice the effects every day. But I feel like that off time also is a good time to like, the off time is just as good as the on time. Like you kind of need that off to rebalance yourself a little bit.
That makes sense.
So, why would someone microdose LSD over microdosing psilocybin?
Yeah, so I have ADHD and I was prescribed like Adderall and Ritalin and Vyvanse and all these crazy things at a young age since like 4th grade. And
Oh, wow.
First of all, that shit screwed up my dopamine receptors and a lot of mental things came out of that. But I eventually stopped. That's why I started microdosing. But with shrooms, they're kind of more laid back. Like psilocybin is way more laid back, and I love it. I love the way it makes me feel. But like, it just wasn't what I needed. Like I like it sometimes, but I need that stimulation. So the LSD it gives me that energy, that drive, that mental stimulation that like Adderall or Vyvanse or one of those would, but without any of the drawbacks that I would get from those. So I'd got every negative side effect from Adderall.
Can I ask what your side effects were?
Oh yeah. I wouldn't eat at all. I'd have nausea. I'd get very irritable when I was coming down, like super like irritable when I was coming down. And if I wasn't taking it, I'd be irritable. Like I was basically addicted to it.
You're addicted.
Yeah, because my mom, like, I love her now. She always talked about this, and I've told her how I feel about those kind of drugs. But she was forcing me to take Vyvanse every day as a young kid.
Well, and she thought that she was
100%.
helping you.
That's exactly it. It came out of love. She doesn't know that it's a stimulant that is frying your dopamine receptors every time you're taking it.
I don't think a lot of people realize
No,
that.
they don't. It's not a drug that should be daily. You can use it to benefit your life occasionally for sure, but I don't think most people should use it every day. Maybe there's some exceptions, but you shouldn't be having something that's releasing all that dopamine every day. Like,
well, and that's the interesting thing about psychedelics is that they are non-addictive and you can build up a tolerance really, really, really fast. So I think a lot of people when they're on prescription meds, when they feel like they're not working anymore, the answer is to up the dose. And with psychedelics, it's cut back.
Yeah.
Like, stop taking.
I didn't even think about that.
Get back to baseline and then start up again. Because I don't really follow a microdosing schedule anymore either, but I did in the beginning just to have rules to follow and to know what I was doing. And when people ask me now, I'm like, it's really just intuition and it's based on what I'm going through at the time. And if I feel like I need a little help through some hard weeks, I'll microdose a few times that week.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. It's definitely I know when I need to take it kind of thing. And
Yeah.
especially like today when I know I was going to go out and talk about psychedelics, I was like, oh, well, I definitely will take a microdose today. Definitely loosen things up a little bit, make conversation slow. But yeah, I take a microdose, CBD, and some like beneficial mushrooms like almost every time I do it, like all together. And I just feel like that combo with everything just really helps
you take
me.
it all together?
Well,
Yeah,
like mushrooms like lion's mane or reishi or something like
yes.
that. I just started stacking that with mine.
I just started
such a great feeling.
I just started taking lion's mane too.
There's like Paul Stamets has like a microdosing stack where you take niacin along with lion's mane and the psilocybin. So I just tried that once.
So now for people who don't know, what's niacin?
I just found this out. I was like, well, Paul Stamets says it's good. So I just ordered some. One of my friends who was taking it got like this really bad flush. Her entire body was like red. And I was like, mine didn't do that. And then I looked at my bottle and it says no flush. And I was like, oh, that must be a thing. But it's what they put in pre-workout.
Oh.
Yeah. So that feeling, that tingly body feeling that you get, like that's what niacin is. It's really for like focus and energy. So you're not supposed to be drinking caffeine. Do you drink caffeine?
No, not very much.
Okay.
I used to do it like every day, but it's very rare now.
Okay.
I used to drink coffee every day too, and I don't drink coffee
because that's
anymore.
something I try to tell people. Like I don't microdose and drink coffee.
Yeah, the caffeine is anxiety, and it just makes your body crawl.
Yeah.
I just realized that could be another thing with
Tony.
Yeah.
He drinks coffee every day.
A lot.
Because Jason, when he used to microdose, I used to be like, don't drink your coffee.
A lot.
Don't drink your coffee today. I would
coffee.
like sprinkle some mushrooms on some toast and be like, here's your toast. Don't drink coffee.
Yeah, he drinks a lot of coffee.
Yeah, I feel like I can affect it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I've had like trips where like on LSD and stuff, and I was actively drinking caffeine, and like I would note, since LSD is already stimulating, when I got that caffeine in me, I was just getting so stimmed up and weird feeling. I just like, oh, like
I wouldn't want to mix.
Yeah, it was not right, and I didn't realize it until after the fact. I was like, oh, it's the caffeine in this that's making me feel this way.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
This is not another question that's not on the list, but I just thought of this. Like, I don't drink really at all, but like, I don't recommend people mix alcohol with any type of psychedelic.
I mean, so I feel like yes and no. Like I get, because the alcohol is not really great for you mentally, physically, at all. It's not good for you.
No benefits.
But
alcohol is literally terrible.
It's a poison.
Yeah, but like I've also had really great trips where I was drinking a lot of beers and stuff. Like
okay.
Like those weren't necessarily my trips where I was going and solve problems. Those were
fun
when I was going to having fun and trying to have a good time. So like, if I was drinking at that time, like yes, it was fun, but like of course alcohol is not great for your body and stuff. But no drug is inherently good or bad in my opinion. It's all dose and setting, and there's a lot of things that come to factor.
Intention. Yeah. And I guess I have always I know people stack a lot of psychedelics, and that like candy flipping, all that stuff, it scares me because I want to know what it feels like with nothing else.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel anything other than what that psychedelic is doing. So I know what it feels like. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I definitely used to feel that way until I kind of tried all the ones.
Okay, maybe.
And then I'm like, but what if we mix these two together? How will I feel then?
So you really like to experiment.
That might be. I feel like that's really what it is for a lot of people, is just kind of experimenting with different things. Yeah, and
see what works.
It's really interesting because like, you can go a lot different places when you mix other things. I'm not recommending people always mix things, because you definitely got to use caution. And if you're mixing things, it's going to exponentiate each drug itself.
Yeah.
But when you got a little experience on your belt and you've done each thing.
Well, and you've done a lot of research on this. Yeah.
I feel like I'm an informed drug user. I know what I'm getting myself into when I'm getting myself into it.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that too. So is there anybody who wouldn't be a good candidate for microdosing?
Well, so if you're on SSRIs, I wouldn't recommend it, or they don't really work with psychedelics. They tend to kind of push it back. So if you're on an SSRI, if you like what you're having, obviously stay on it. But if you're willing to try something new, definitely talk with your doctor and get tapered off it first before you end up trying it, because it's kind of it works on the same receptors, like the serotonin receptors. So if you're doing it, it's just not really going to benefit you as much as if you weren't on that medication. I'm not advocating for anyone to stop taking their medication, but if that's something you're wanting to try, you should definitely talk to your doctor about coming off it before trying.
The more I was reading about SSRIs, they bind to that serotonin receptor, and that's kind of what psychedelics are supposed to do too. So if there's something that's already bound.
They're
kind of
competing.
Yeah. So, I do feel like you have to be off of them in order for this to do what it's supposed to do. And I've been with friends who were on SSRIs, and I'm like tripping balls, and they're like, I don't feel anything. And I'm like, how are you not feeling anything? So,
but besides that, I definitely think almost anyone, if you're wanting to try, like, there's no reason not to try it. Like the only problems I can see, if you are predisposed to schizophrenia or something, psychedelics can bring out illnesses that you're already predisposed to having. And if you already have it, it's not going to give you something that you don't already have. But if you're predisposed to having it, it can help draw it out a little quicker. So it's definitely, if you have some mental illnesses like schizophrenia or something like that in your family, it's definitely something to use caution and maybe stay away from.
Well, and I think a lot of healthcare, doctors and therapists and psychologists, and they're all, I wouldn't say they're all knowledgeable in this, but some of them know what's happening with the psychedelic world. And some of them are open to talking about it with you. And some of them are probably like, yeah, that actually might be something worth looking into for you. Let's help get you. We have several.
Well,
I have one.
Awesome.
So yeah, they know what they're talking about, and they can help you wean off of something. They're not gonna steer you in the wrong direction. If you're not sure, ask your doctor. If they're like, no, I would never, then maybe get another doctor. Yeah,
it's a taboo subject. I don't think doctors are the ones that are like that. they're just not open to like learning something new. They learned what they learned, and they think they know it all, and that it is what it is. Yeah,
that it is what it is. I guess in my experience, like, you know, we only have one life, and I want to experience it to the fullest. And if someone says at the end of my life, you know, did you do everything you wanted to do? I guess I'm one of those people, like, I've always wanted to try new things. And even if there weren't all of these health benefits, if someone says tripping on mushrooms was like the best time they ever had, I would be like, well, I want to try it. I want to do it at least once, just to have that experience and to know what it felt like and before I die.
Well, for me, like, after talking to you, I'm like, well, I already feel like shit. I feel like I have no purpose. Like, I'm visually seeing you and how much you've changed. And then I go and do my own research, and it's profoundly positive. So I'm like, fuck it. Like, what do I have to lose?
Why not?
Why not? YOLO.
YOLO.
I think I just showed my age there.
I mean, that's in my experience. Like, why would you not want to try something if there was something like beneficial that could come out of it?
And I think a lot of it comes down to like still being taboo and it being illegal. But it's like, at what point morality and legality are not the same?
No,
not at all.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
So like, if you can do something that's going to benefit your life for the better, go do it. Like, if it's not hurting anyone else, go do it.
Well, and alcohol has been illegal.
Yeah. It makes no sense. We were talking about caffeine too. We sell caffeine bottled sugar to kids.
Right.
We get them hooked on 2 different drugs, but we can't take this one that doesn't hurt anyone.
Right. That's why I think microdosing is kind of like it's a good initial start for people who are curious and a macro dose scares them, and to start with a microdose just to see how it makes you feel and just the small benefits you feel throughout the day and your mood and maybe how you handle situations.
I think that's a good point, because it's like, if you've never done anything before and you start microdosing and you're like, oh, okay, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, then it kind of piques your interest a little bit more. Right. You're like, what would a larger dose do? If this small little dose, after like a month of doing these small little doses, I'm already in this type of headspace, I can't even imagine what more would do for me.
Where me and you felt like we really had nothing to lose.
Right.
And so we're like, whatever, if it's a bad trip, then it's a bad trip. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But obviously we had very positive experiences, both of us. But not everybody feels that way, because I think it's very scary for a lot of people. It was scary for me too, but I was just like, meh, I've got nothing to lose.
Yeah, it can be definitely scary, but I feel like at the end of the day, you got to remind that person that's like, hey, like, no matter how much you take, it won't physically hurt you. It will not physically hurt you. You could go through some troubling times, but that dose is physically safe.
Well, and in Fantastic Fungi, Paul took 20 grams and went out into the woods.
I can't even imagine. So it was interesting what you were saying about caffeine, because I was listening to a podcast about that too, like how caffeine is one of the most addictive drugs in the world, and it's regulated. Like, I don't think people understand that there are rules to how much caffeine can be in a soda, how much caffeine can be in coffee, but nobody follows those rules.
No.
Like, so you can overdose on caffeine, but you would have to eat your body weight in mushrooms. And even then, I mean, you're not physically able to eat enough mushrooms to overdose. It's like you physically cannot. Your body will start throwing it up before that's even possible, and you couldn't even fit that in your stomach either.
No,
but you can OD on so many other things. Oh, yeah. Like you can get alcohol poisoning if you drink too much, and you're just gonna go right back out there and do it again. Right. What about LSD? Like, is that the same thing? Like, you would have to like basically take your body weight, and
no one has died from LSD. Anyone that doesn't know, LSD in doses is measured in micrograms. Not milligrams, micrograms, which is very, very small. You can't even see a dose on a tab. If you were to take that off, you would not be able to see it. It would be invisible to the eye. But I forgot where I was going with this.
See, it keeps happening. I swear we're not high.
I know, I remember now. But there was a story of this lady. She had crystal LSD, and like enough to see. Any amount to see is a lot. That's going to be more than 10, 50 doses. You know, it's going to be a large amount. she thought it was cocaine because it's a white powder. So she snorted a line that she thought was cocaine, but it was thousands and thousands and thousands of doses of LSD.
Oh,
she ended up going to the hospital just because I'm sure they all freaked out that she took so much, but completely fine.
So
I read about this because
like
she had like a really good experience afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, she did?
Yeah.
So what was her experience?
I can't remember.
It's been a while since I read it.
There was like a page that I follow that shares like other people's experiences. And yeah, she was hospitalized, but she ended up being fine. And I could be wrong about this. I want to look for it and find it just to be sure. But she had like some addiction issues. And when she came out of it, she was like able to get clean and sober.
Holy shit.
Yes. It might be the same story because I remember reading about this.
She was doing cocaine.
She thought it was coke.
Yeah, I'm
sure. I was
she
like,
was.
How crazy is it that you think you're snorting cocaine? You're actually snorting LSD.
Like, and then it's craziest fucking
by
trip
the
of
way,
your life.
Well, that and like addiction issues no more.
Right.
That's fucking wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's cool though.
I want to know. I'm interested in DMT.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to know what your experience with that was like.
Yeah. Well.
Because that's like a 20-minute trip, right?
Yeah.
And I know nothing about DMT.
Anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes. I'll give you a little background on it since you don't know much.
Yeah.
Well, DMT is produced in almost every living thing that there is. It's produced in our stomachs. It's thought to be produced in our brains. There's no scientific evidence for sure yet, but it's thought to be produced in our brains, but as well as every other living thing. And if you've heard of ayahuasca before, right? So they had this root and this vine that they can brew together to make an ayahuasca with DMT and an MAOI to make it last longer. But DMT itself is extracted from that and comes in a crystal, and it's usually white or yellow. It can be orange too, but it's very, very potent by dose. So like, you take about 10 milligrams for a very small dose. And so my first trip, I was trying to go really far. I just wanted to go as far as I could go, And
were you alone?
No, this time it was actually, I won't use the person's name, but I was with some of my friends at their house. And we acquired some DMT and we acquired a meth pipe because that was the only way I knew how to at the time. But put it in, and I remember hitting it, and the first thought that came to my head is like, why am I hitting a meth pipe? And like, it kind of first, I was like, this is going to spiral me. So I was like, I just passed it to my friend. I was like, I just got to relax. So I just kept it cool, and I just started getting thrown into a tunnel of just like fractals and emerging colors and just things coming at me. And a panther, an old panther, just came up to me and opened its mouth and ate me. And as soon as it ate me, I just felt really connected to it. I felt like it may have been my spirit animal.
Oh, and shit!
So that was about it, and I ended up coming out of it, but it was really intense, and that was my first DMT trip, and then I didn't touch it for years because it was.
And then it was only 10.
Yeah, 10. I think it was 12 minutes total or something.
Gosh.
But it was one of the most intense experiences of my life. Because it just, you feel like you're you're 1,000,000 miles an hour, you're getting shot out of a cannon and just flying, and you don't feel like you're in the room you're currently in. You were in a different realm, just completely immersed.
Wow.
Colors and different shapes and just beautiful, beautiful things. But that was the first time I did it, and eventually I got intrigued and worked up the courage to do it again, because it takes a lot of courage. You sit there and it's going to be the most intense experience of your life. How do you prepare for that?
Yeah,
there's nothing more intense. There's nothing more intense. I cannot. So by the time I broke through, so I don't know if you're all familiar, but a breakthrough is a dose where it's so heavy that you break through to the other side, and you're no longer a part of your body, a part of Earth. You are gone. You are somewhere else. You're in a different.
I don't think I've ever experienced that. No. Yeah.
So the first trip I didn't go there. I was in a different realm, but I didn't completely break through.
You're right on the edge.
Yeah. So there's 3 levels. There's a little bit of tripping, a little bit of visuals. That's level 1. Level 2 is my first trip, where it's intense. You're getting shot into a different realm. Level 3 is you get shot through the realm, and then you break through, and it's no more intensity. It kind of it passes the intense phase, and you're just there. It's not so scary. Level 2 is a little scary.
Holy shit! Is this depending on how many hits you take?
Depending on how many hits, how long you hold it, and what amount. So you can break through in one hit as long as you inhale enough vapor and hold it in, but you really got to hold it in for 30 seconds. and which 30 seconds in tripping time feels a lot different than 30 seconds in sober time. So when I was taking my breakthrough dose, I took it all in one hit and I held it in, and I just remember like falling back, and it hits instantly. Like halfway through my hit, it's already hitting, and I am just getting like feeling everything hit my body, just like crazy rushes of energy, and I'm just flying through this like tunnel almost, and then it just like breaks through and it's calm, and it was just pure white. And I woke up, and there was this white female, like this entity. I don't know how to describe it. It's a spiritual being. It definitely felt real, like a being, like something like alive, I guess. But it wasn't like a human. It was made of white light and had like a jester hat on, and she didn't tell me in her words, but she said breathe, because I was holding in my head. She said breathe, and as soon as I exhaled, she exploded the world out into like a billion different like colors and things. And then she said breathe again, and then I inhaled, and it like came all back into me. Like, it just like sucked all back into me. And she like sat there with me for a few minutes, and it was just teaching me like breath work and like how to like do certain breath work and breathing and stuff. And it was just, with each breath, she was showing me something different with my breath. And it was just so fucking beautiful. Like,
oh my God.
It was amazing. And after like, I guess I learned my breath work, she like passed me off to her buddy. And it was like this dude made of white light. It was definitely masculine. Like I could tell like there was a difference. And he was more so like, just like showing me all throughout the realm. He's like, come over here. Like, and just like dancing. Like I had music in the background playing a little bit, and I could still like barely hear it. And he was just dancing along, showing me all the different rooms. He's like, you want to go in this room? Like, I was like, yeah. And then he just showed me a bunch of different rooms. There was like different colored ones. But I remember walking into like, there was this one room that was just white and black, like, and just impossible shapes and stuff, but only white and black, no other colors. I was like, that one looks pretty cool. I want to go in that one. So we went, and he took me into that one. I just explored that whole world, and then eventually like end up like dissipating, came to, but it was a crazy experience.
Oh my God.
And I just came out of there and just stress and weight lifted off my shoulder, just feel like nothing but happiness, just straight happy. And I just looked at my friend and just like hugged him. I was like, oh, like just like I had to. I was like, man, this is crazy. Like the feeling you get out of it is just beautiful. You come out a whole different person. It's like you're reborn. Like your stress, anxiety of the previous is just gone.
Have you heard, I don't know if this is what I feel like I've read this, where DMT, where you were saying earlier, they found that in the body, it's like something that's released when you're born, and it's something that's released when you die.
Yeah, that's
naturally.
Really?
That's what we have no like concrete evidence to prove it, because like we can't really operate in someone being born or dying.
Right.
But yeah, that's what we think. And I'm a firm believer it definitely has something to do with the spirit world. Like, I'm not religious, so to say. I grew up Catholic, but I'm not religious at all.
We aren't either.
But I definitely feel there's something spiritual out there. I think there is something more than this bag of bones. Like, there's something that us goes to. Like, there's something.
Well, I call it the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all of these experiences that you've had have probably made you much more spiritual.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Because it's like a spiritual,
this intense connection to something other than yourself.
Yeah.
But also to the world around you.
Yeah, I feel like we're the universe experiencer itself through different means. Like, I feel really connected to anything and everything. I feel like we're all come from the same source, the same one thing, and we're just experiencing ourselves.
And to me, that's such a love that most people aren't able to experience or feel for other people, or even really for themselves. So for me, I'm like, why would you look down on anyone who has these experiences and comes out and feels nothing but love?
Yeah.
Like,
that's very true.
Why is that a bad thing? They feel loved, they feel connected, they feel better about themselves and the world around them. And I don't know.
But I think often people are so disconnected with themselves.
Yeah.
So when you see somebody who is
so connected to themselves,
and like there's such an outpouring of love,
it almost seems crazy.
Well, and I think that it scares people almost.
I don't want to say it's a jealousy, but there's definitely some projection there.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So they're like,
we've talked about that so much.
Yeah. So you were at Forecastle this weekend?
Yes. Yeah.
Same. So we took my 5-year-old the first 2 nights because she loves music. Mm-hmm. She loves concerts. She loves festivals. She just thrives off that energy. And our other 2 kids aren't like that. So we're like, are you sure you don't want to go to this concert? But she was all about it. And being there and seeing everyone just so like not really caring what the people around them thought about them, like dancing and having their moments. Like I could pick everybody out and be like, she's on drugs, she's on drugs, she's on drugs. But I wasn't judgy about it. It was just they're having such a good time right now. And my daughter is doing it naturally. Like she was just dancing and having such a good time naturally. But I feel like the older we get, the more conditioned we are to behave or be a certain way.
Norms.
So I'm watching her and I'm like, I hope to God she never loses that, because I feel like that is the essence of being a child and what it should be. Like I'm allowing her to be herself and have fun, and these other people are also doing that, but I'm really hoping that sticks with her.
But the fact that you even think about that and that's a concern for you, like that's a very good thing, because oftentimes our parents shaped us how to act, how to behave, how to, what to do and what not to do, and what was okay and what was not okay, and what are other people going to think.
That's exactly what it is. What are other people going to think?
What are other people going to think? Where you want her to be her authentic self and you embrace that, where oftentimes our parents didn't embrace what we were and who we were. And it wasn't because they weren't necessarily intentionally doing that. I think it was done to them. Then they did it to us.
Well, and they just didn't know what they didn't know. Like your mom was saying, putting you on medicine. I've always said I don't want my kids on medicine. I didn't really understand why. I just knew there was I don't want to do that to my kids. And now I understand. I'm like, oh no, hell no, I'm not doing that to my kids.
But also too, like she had a doctor, I assume, tell her like that was the right step to take. Well, and so when we are conditioned to be like, okay, that's a doctor. They know everything about everything. And so if they're telling me to do this and I don't know otherwise, why wouldn't I do this for my child?
And it's almost naive to think of a doctor to prescribe all these medicines and stuff without them even, like, granted, I don't think they should be drug addicts, but I think they should know what they're prescribing. Like if they're never taken an anxiety or depression medication, like sure you can read about it, but like do you really know how it makes you feel though? Like,
right.
And then you get them on different anxiety medications that take weeks to build up in their system, and it messes with all their chemical balances in their head, and if they forget to take it, it's going to screw up. Like I don't know, the traditional sense of treating mental health with medication is a little weird right now. It's just we need some change, and I think the psychedelics a good breakthrough for that change.
Yeah, I think it'll help us get outside of our egos a little bit.
Yeah,
and I think that's what I was getting at is like everyone who was able to be themselves that I could see at Forecastle, who wasn't worried about what other people were looking at or judging. Like their egos were just gone.
The music festival scene is just such a beautiful thing too. It's like everyone being there at once, witnessing the same thing together. There's a connection there. Like you radiate off each other, and it's just a whole different experience. That's why a lot of people trip there, because you can play off that radiate and like just have a beautiful trip being there with all those people having a good time, and
everybody's kind of on the same level.
And you get on the same wavelength. It reminds me about this experience I actually had. We were talking about ketamine earlier.
Yeah.
So there's a thing called a K-hole, which is similar to like a DMT trip where you're like not really in your body. So like you kind of leave, especially if you're on another psychedelic while doing that, like it's very psychedelic. But I left my body and I was hearing music playing at this music festival, but I could like feel other souls like dancing to this music. It was the strangest feeling I've ever experienced. But like I wasn't at the actual stage, but I was like in my like consciousness, like dancing with other consciousnesses, like to that same music. Like I felt really connected to other people that were probably, I assume, were people tripping there too as well.
Right.
But like that's just, I mean, that's what I think. It could be whatever it is, but that was my experience.
That was ketamine?
Yeah. I was on mushrooms and ketamine. Yeah.
Okay. What is ketamine?
So ketamine is trying to think of the dissociative. Thank you. Ugh, I think of the word. Dissociative.
Okay.
So we have psychedelics and dissociatives, and a lot of times they get lumped together because you can have like psychedelic experiences on dissociatives. So ketamine, like nitrous oxide, which is laughing gas, those are both dissociatives.
Oh.
So for a lot of people with medicine, what it tends to do, like how they're using it for anxiety and depression and stuff now, it really gives you like a step back. It feels like you're almost in like third person. It gives you a nice step back from everything, and your mind is just, it really shuts down to like a minimum. Like it's not thinking as hard as it was. It really puts you kind of in like a trance almost. But I don't know. It's a really unique one because in lower doses and higher doses, it's totally different.
Okay.
And so most people at like a festival do lower doses, like, you know, just to get a little. It makes your body kind of drunken. Like you lose like a little bit of mobility, I guess. But like some people like that. But it's not so like, I don't know. It's not as like alcohol where it makes you feel like queasy and sick. But in the higher doses, it gets really weird. You go places. I've been to like some weird like worlds filled with sand and like Egyptian stuff.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really unique.
So with shrooms and with acid, maybe I've had it with MDMA before, but like there's that like when you're waiting on it to kick in, that queasy, like uncomfortable feeling. Like, so the third day we were at Forecastle, we didn't have our daughter and we took some shrooms before we walked in. And when they started to kick in, I was like, I need to sit down.
Oh yeah.
So I know some people who are like, oh, I can't do shrooms. It fucks with my stomach. And I'm like, it fucks with mine too. Like, but I know to expect that. Yeah. And I just kind of ride it out. Like we both sat there and waited on that feeling to pass. And then as soon as the feeling was gone, it never came back. And it was just like smooth sailing after that.
That's how I felt too.
So with DMT, it's instant.
Yeah.
There's no waiting period.
Not really.
And
you're going.
Is that the same with ketamine?
No, ketamine definitely has some time, but ketamine relieves so much anxiety. Like I know people have had bad times on it, but for me, it's really hard to have a bad time on it because I know what I'm getting myself into. Okay. A lot of people that have a bad time on it, they take too much and they almost K-hole, and they don't want to K-hole.
Okay.
You know, like because if you K-hole, you're going to be a lump on the ground for about an hour. Like your body's not moving. Like
so like the goal is to not KO.
Yeah, well, for some people.
That should be on a t-shirt.
Some people really like to KO, but like you're not going to KO at a concert.
Okay.
Like, I did that back at a tent, you know, like because I wanted to go through a psychedelic experience at my tent while I was on mushrooms, but that's not everyone's cup of tea. A lot of people are scared of the K-hole and think it's some scary thing, but
it's like a time and place type thing.
Yeah. It's you're not going to do that at a show and just drop out.
Lay there on the ground.
Yeah.
I feel like though I've seen that before and been like, that person is wasted.
I've seen someone injecting ketamine at a show.
Oh shit!
Yeah, it was a little scary, but I mean, I was trying not to judge, but
see, and I guess that's the thing. Like anything can be done with good intentions, and anything can be done as like an escape or a way out. Like no matter what the drug is, no matter what the substance is, there are wrong ways and 100%. Right ways. And I wouldn't even necessarily say wrong and right, because it really just depends on the person and their intention. But I feel like the people who judge anyone who does this, like, how many times have they, taken one too many Xanaxes to escape a feeling? Like you're doing the same thing with something different type of situation.
It really blows my mind when I tell people, I tell people that I use drugs like that and stuff. They're like, oh, wow. But like, they drink themselves to oblivion every weekend. Like it's no different. Honestly, I'm probably being safer.
I guess that's kind of my thing. Like I'm not judging you, but you're judging me. Yeah. So it makes me want to judge you. I guess I'm not that much of a psychonaut if I'm still judging people.
I mean, I feel like it's hard. It's a human thing. It's like you see something and your brain just wants to. I don't know if this is necessarily you, but that chatter in your head, like you can see something and it's going to say something about that, whether that be your actual thought or not.
I think that's what it is. I don't judge until I feel like I'm being judged, and then my defense goes up, and then I'm like, well, hold up. Why is what I'm doing worse than what you're doing? Like, I don't know. I guess my defense goes up.
I've always been around alcoholism. Like it runs in my family, and I have a lot of family members who struggle with alcoholism. So it's always interesting to me when, someone brings judgment and I'm like, I've literally been like around alcoholics my entire life and I'm doing something that really helped my mental health. I'm not addicted to. I don't do it like on a regular basis, but even if I did, like, I don't know, like.
The person that wrote the AA book learned
Bill
it from
Wilson.
the LSD trip. Like that's where it came to him.
We really need to do an episode on this because it keeps coming
up in the episodes.
And so it's interesting because.
But a lot of people don't know that.
A lot of people don't know. My husband's in AA and he's about to be 1 year sober. And that's why we're doing the acid trip.
Yeah, I don't.
But I'm like,
I don't think that messes with sobriety at all, though.
I don't think it does at all. I think it's helped him tremendously power through some of the steps that were a lot harder for other people, because he was able to go in and work on some of those steps, like the resentment steps, like where a lot of people have a hard time letting go. He did a mushroom trip and was able to like disattach, is that a word? Detach himself from some of those resentments. But it's so frowned upon in some of those AA groups. Like, I'm like, I don't know if any of them are listening to this podcast, but like, they would probably be like, what the fuck, man? Like, you're not sober if you're doing acid. But I'm like,
yeah, I get it. But
there are also a lot of chapters
anyone can have their opinion on it.
Yeah, there are a lot of chapters, and what our last guest was saying, like there are some even here in Louisville locally who are very into psychedelics for healing and sobriety. So I'm like, it's really all about the relationship that you have with the drugs.
Yeah. It comes back to it, like no drug's inherently good or bad. It's the relationship with that drug.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and too, like with alcoholism, like a lot of times when people get sober, there are still underlying issues there.
Oh, yeah.
Like what you said, like with resentment or, letting go of things, where psychedelics can help like with that. And
they help you become introspective and kind of go inward.
Right.
Is what I see. Everything else is like an outward experience. Like you're using it to escape reality. And this is going to take you in.
Yeah.
In my experience so far with everything that I've done, so I'm nowhere near your level. You've got like 10 years ahead of me.
I know, which by the way, you're like way younger than us. And I'm pretty sure you're the coolest 23-year-old I've ever fucking met.
100%.
I walked a lot of psychedelic miles in my mind.
I do feel like there's like a different type of, I don't want to say a different type of personality, but like once you are in this world, I feel like it's easy to tell who's done them. Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Well, and
when you're having a conversation easily.
Yes.
Yeah, like you're very, like for a 23-year-old, very mature, very, very intelligent,
very wise,
very, very wise, and very obviously very knowledgeable about this world. But like the big thing is like mature and wise that I feel when talking to you.
I think he knows where he's going in life.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, I definitely still have some hiccups that I need to work on myself, but
sure, we all do.
I definitely think psychedelics have benefited my life for the better. Like, if I wouldn't have found them out, who knows what I'd be doing? Because I was young and dumb, and I was experimenting a lot of things when I was a kid. Yeah. And I mean, I still do occasionally, but I feel like they help steer me on the right path. They definitely, because I almost took like a shamanistic role at one point where I really wanted to share these with people and like show the good of them and just give them out. And I would give them out to free to, whoever wanted to have them like at some point. So here, take them, please. Like, go better your life.
Yeah, that's actually the Sunshine Makers. You should watch that documentary. What they were doing, they were like, they made like enough acid to dose the world. And their goal was to do it and give it to everybody for free. Like they weren't trying to make money off of this. And I think that that's where so many people are like, why would you do that and not want to make money? But there's a difference. Like we're just trying to
make the world a better place.
Help people.
Yeah.
And share what we know. So yeah, I kind of agree with that. I hate that it's like something that anybody would feel like needs to be monetized. I mean, obviously you have to pay for it, but
Yeah. I mean, that's where it comes down to. I feel like I have a great amount of knowledge and experience with them. So I feel like it's my job to share what I have about them with other people, because I feel like it really will benefit a lot of people. Like, I'm not sure if my aunt told you, but my uncle, he was going through some struggling times and stuff, and my aunt opened up to me about it and that he was wanting to try it, and so I found out he was wanting to try it, and I just gave him as much stuff as I could. I was like, here, just take all this. Don't worry about paying for anything. Just take all this and try it. Let's see what it gets. And he's been doing a lot better. And
That's awesome.
Wow.
yeah, it's beautiful. It's really cool to see it actually like helping and changing people's lives.
Yeah.
I think that that's the biggest thing. It really is a tool that can, as much as it can be used for fun, it can also be used to help change the world, change people's lives for the better, help you break out of whatever feelings that you are feeling stuck in. I don't know. There's just a lot of hope in them, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's stuttering, sorry. But yeah, they really did change my life. And I don't know, I feel really strongly about them, I guess.
Same. Well, I'm happy that we made this connection.
I know. And I should have known you were awesome because your aunt's fucking awesome. So
I want to have you back on sometime
too.
to talk about like CBD,
absolutely.
because that's where I'm not very knowledgeable
Yeah.
in
I
that
got
stuff.
a lot of knowledge about that too.
Heck yes.
All right, Kyler. So go ahead and plug your business again and then tell people where they can find you on Instagram.
Yeah, so we're Grass Station. You can find us at grass.station_502. That's our cannabis page. That's for our hemp, our THC, stuff like that. And we also have a glass page for people that like to, smoke their cannabis. And that's Grass Station Gallery, all one word on Instagram.
Okay. Thank you.
I am so glad we got to meet you today and interview
Yeah, this is
you.
awesome.
And this was awesome.
I'm glad you all started a podcast about this here. Like, this is really cool.
Thanks. So I guess if you guys have any questions, reach out and we will see
you on the other side.